Good evening and welcome to the Contra Costa Transportation Authority meeting of December 18th, 2024, our last meeting of the year. And I will call this meeting to order, and if you will please listen to this short video first.
This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organizations, but providing such information is voluntary. Citizens participating in person wishing to speak should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand in Zoom or submit a public speaker card, and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Great, thank you, Terrian. And now, Terrian, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Carlson,
Here.
Commissioner Alt G.
Here.
Sorry. Commissioner / Representative Glover.
Here.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Commissioner Meadows.
Here.
Commissioner / Representative Nowak. Here. Commissioner Alt Xavier.
Here.
Chair Arnrich.
Here.
Representative Foley is absent. Representative Worth is absent. We also have Commissioner alternates Obringer and Stepper absent, and we do have a quorum.
Great, thank you for that. And now will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and if there is anybody listening online, would you please mute yourself? Thank you. Thank you. And now this is an opportunity for public comment. And public comment at this time is for anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anybody online, Terrian, who would like to make any public comment?
No public comment online, but we do have in-person public comment from Bruce Olson.
All right, thank you. And any written comment?
No written public comment.
All right, Bruce, welcome. Happy holidays.
Thank you very much. This has to do with Administration and Projects Committee Consent Item number 6N. I'll speak now or wait till the item comes up.
Why don't you just hold for a second, and then let me ask, is there anybody else who would like to make public comment on anything that's not on tonight's agenda?
No public comment under general public comment.
Seeing none, then we'll close the public hearing. This will take us to our next item, presentations. We have a very special presentation later tonight, so you have to stay to the last agenda item, and we'll tell you about what that is when we get there. Now, next item is consent calendar. Consent calendar is considered items that are routine and have been seen in committee previously and can be acted on by one motion. However, is there anybody here in public who would like to make public comment or pull one of those items for discussion? Mr. Olson.
Mr. Olson.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Arnrich, committee members, staff members, and members of the public. I am Bruce Olson, East County's Mr. Bicycle. This item is number 6N, the Administration and Projects Committee consent item. It has to do with Interstate 680 State Route 4 interchange improvements. The item talks about finalizing the design phases of Phase 1, Phase 2A, and Phase 4. Please include some design for the bicycle path that we've discussed previously that will go through this interchange between the Iron Horse Trail and the Contra Costa Canal Trail with the stop off at the Pacheco Transit Hub. I'd like to say happy holidays to everyone. And I'd like to say Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you for those comments. Just to be clear, I'll ask our executive director, Tim, did you want to make any comments on that particular item about that connection?
Yeah, no, thank you for the public comment, Mr. Olson. I think we are fully on top of this bike trail project. We actually, the board approved earlier this year a $500,000 allocation for RM3 to do a study on that bike trail. And so once we do the study, then we'll determine kind of next steps in terms of how to move it forward into the design phase. But as you're all aware, 684 is a multi-phased project. So we're obviously getting the phases that are ready and project ready now, which is basically Phase 1 and Phase 2A. And then as we'll be, it's actually on today's agenda, but we're also in the consent calendar on that item, we're amending the designer's contract to be able to split the packages. So that way we can then get the right size of the project based on the available funding. So, and Director Ramirez, anything else you want to add? Good. Did you want me, anything else? Did I miss anything? You good? 684? Yeah.
Yeah, so we're currently doing the feasibility study, right? We got that ball rolling. So we're reaching out to all the stakeholders to help us implement those ideas, initiate the conversation. So they're also nuts in the works.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
you're
for that.
welcome.
All right, is there any other public comment in person or online for the consent calendar?
No further public comment.
Great, then we'll close the public comment period. And the consent calendar, is there any discussion
Move
or a
approval.
motion? It's been moved. Second. It's been moved by Carlson, seconded by Glover. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Well, you know what? Now we kind of know where we're headed. Let's do an official roll call vote since we're online too. Sorry.
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Alt-G?
Yes.
Commissioner Glover?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Meadows?
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes.
Commissioner Alt-Xavier?
Aye.
Chair Arnrich?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner alternates Obringer and Stepper absent.
All right, thank you. Well done. This will take us to our regular items, to item number 8 under APC Projects, Administration Projects Committee. Item 8A is to accept the annual audit report. What used to be called the CAFR is now the, I can't remember how to pronounce that. ACFR. That's right. Thank you. ACFR. And to present that is Juliana. Juliana, welcome.
Good evening, chairs and commissioners. My name is Julie Chang. I'm the finance manager for CCTA. I'm here to present the annual audit. And also, Mason Associates, David Alfie is going to be joining me in just a minute to talk about their role during the audit process. I'm here to give you a highlights as you have seen the interim financials for June. We talk about that in a little bit of detail in the staff report. So today's presentation will be just highlight as the annual comprehensive financial report, or the ACFR, includes all the accruals, the debt service, and the different outflows and inflows of resources related to the pension and OPEB. So we'll get to that. Here's a quick overview of what's in the aquifer. I just want to give some highlights, as I'm sure you're all familiar with the aquifer. So under the introductory section, we have Certificate of Achievement, which really shows we are doing everything possible to have full disclosures, transparency, and that we are staying up to date with the government reporting standards. And then under financial section, there's management and discussion and analysis. This is the one part for you to read in the aquifer that really goes into the detail and talks about everything that we've done, from the revenue, expenditures, and where we are changing from year to year. So a lot of changes that we have from year to year are in the capital project side. It explains why our budget always fluctuates from year to year, depending on where we are in delivering those projects. And the statistical section really just show the 10-year trends of the authority's additional financial information, economic, demographic, and operating information. Here in the management discussion and analysis, you can see the analysis of the net position compared to the prior year. The number one thing you want to look at is assets. What are the assets, the liabilities, and the net position? As we look on the bottom, you see there's a negative number, and you always want to ask why we have a negative number in the net position. So ideally, you want to have more assets than you have liabilities. But the authority has constructed over a number of years a lot of projects, and with that we issue bonds to finance these projects. As you know, once the capital project asset is completed, we always transfer and contribute those to the local governments. So you have that, but you don't own the assets, so you have no capital assets. So you have the next 10 years of debt in there. As you can see on the bottom of 2023, we had a negative net position of $330 million. The balance went down because we paid off about $26 million in debt service payments, and there is a payment of interest on top of that as well. As we go on the assets, we have cash and investments. We had about $114 million. There's an accumulation of cash since Measure C and Measure J have been in the process, and we always make sure to manage our investment prudently to comply with our investment policy. We have restricted cash and investment, that's about $15 million. That is set aside every month as we collect our sales tax money. There's a portion of interest and principal that sits inside U.S. Bank for our future debt service payments. So that money is taken off the top before it gets to CCTA for principal and interest that are made twice a year in March and September. Under non-current assets, we have net OPEB assets that went from $816 to $570,000 because we always report 1 year in arrears. So CalPERS investment return, if you see, they had 6.1% in fiscal year 22, but slightly dropped to 5.8% in fiscal year 23, and that's why you see the slight drop of the net OPEB assets there. And we have next capital assets. It's $3 million. We do have a lease here that we capitalized. So as we pay our lease year by year, that's about $500,000 a year. That will bring down our capital asset as well as the lease liabilities, which is sitting under the long-term liabilities. And the reason for the increase on the capital assets is due to the capitalization of the lease extension that we did for this building. Other liabilities are the accounts payable that are going to be due at 6/30. We don't make payments until July and August, and that's why we have a balance in there. Next, we have deferred inflows of resources. Similar to deferred outflows resources in the asset side, these are just timing of payments that we actually made toward the OPEB and pension obligations because we always report 1 year in arrears. Net position, we have investment in capital assets that shows a negative of almost 1.1 million. And again, that's because of the lease capitalization, which really indicates how much of the authority's net worth that is tied up in capital assets. And then we have unrestricted deficit. Included in it is about 19.6 million of reserves. Back in December 22, the authority board approved to increase the reserves from Measure J. So what we did, we took and implemented the reserve policy. We set a budget of 117 million, and we got 121.7 million. So that's about 4.7 million increase in the reserve in 2024, plus some interest. So the reserves are set aside to ensure that we have everything that we wanted to pay out of these projects for the remaining 10 years. Next, on the analysis statement of the activities, we have revenues. The major revenues are the sales tax. As you can see, we have 121.7 million. That's slightly down from the previous year. Other general revenues, we had 6.7 million. This is the interest income that you have. There is about 2.2 million of unrealized gains on paper on this one. So the increase of the unrealized gains was due to the decreasing of interest rate during the period, which resulted in the increase of the market value of the securities held. The bulk of the authorities' investments are in the 1 to 5 year maturity. And again, the market value of the investment always change with the changes in interest rates. Under program revenues, we have operating grants and capital grants. These are all the reimbursable grant that we apply for. It's related to the projects that we deliver. And then we have expenses. Administration, we have 4.4 million. So it went up about 2 million from the previous year. Over half of the increase was due to the lease capitalization resulting from the lease extension through December 2032. So that's about almost 7 years from the initial lease term. The remainder of the increase was due to some extra or additional costs for attorney and consultants in the effort to advancing the authority. So such as the expense that we incurred for the social media content management, the public relations support, patio podcast, and then we have video production for the authorities' awareness campaign and the summer series events and all the other studies that we did for advancing the authority. And we always make sure we monitor the expenses to stay within the budget. We have project management and then also programs expense. That's about 59.7 million. A lot of it, really, the programs expense really is the return to source. So return to source is the money that we set aside as we collect sales tax. We about 42.5% is actually allocated for transportation projects. So the rest of that goes to projects and programs. So for example, like the money that we have and allocate to the bus operators, that's part of that programs that delivered, and so it's all earmarked. We also have pet bike trail facilities and the TLC programs that we set aside and pay as the projects are being completed. Regional planning, we have about 2.1 million. Congestion management was 3.5 million. There's a little increase that from last year too. There were some extra costs for studies and all the different things that they do in the congestion management. Fund exchange reserve, it was about 1.8 million. Most of it are for the Gomenum asset purchase, and then also for some of the Innovate 680 projects like the ADS, and the mobility on demand project. Debt service interest, it was 11.1 million. Again, this is on government-wide financials, so it's like cash basis. The payments that we really made on bonds is about 45 million a year or so. So here is the financial summary highlights for the fiscal year 2024. I kind of went over the sales tax revenue earlier. And then we have federal, state, and local revenues. That was 50.2 million. A big chunk of it is related to the capital improvement program. That was 44.2 million. Congestion management, 1.7 million. And the transportation demand management, which is the TFCA money, 1.6 million. Administration expenditures. So in the strategic plan, we have 29 different categories, and one of them is the 1% that we set aside for salaries and benefits. Of that 839,000, that's about 0.7% of the 1% limitation. So there's a percentage of almost everyone's salary that goes toward to this 1%. And also, there are a lot of us that being spread at other departments in CCTA. Program expenditures, again, that is the allocation of expenditures. We had local street maintenance, that's about 21%. That's 21.1 million for 2024. We also spent about 54.6 million in transportation project. The major project expenditures are the interchange improvement on I-60 and 4, Iron Horse Trail bike pedestrian overcrossing, that's still under construction, and also the I-680 carpool lane gap closure. And lastly, we have the debt service expenditures. That's about 45 million. 26 million was for principal. In the notes to financial statements, usually we provide additional context and explanation for the numbers that presented in the financial statements. For cash and investments, we have a total about 129 million. 71.3 million was invested in the managed investments. We use public trust advisors to help us to manage the investment, and a lot of it are in the U.S. Treasuries. And then local agency investment fund, that's about 42.1 million. The 15 million, again, that's I mentioned earlier, that's part of the restricted cash that's sitting in the debt service funds for our future principal and interest. Long-term debt, that's about 350 million, 4 million of which are for the lease liabilities, and the remaining are in bonds. So we go in all the different bonds, the 2015, 2017, 2018, and 2021 bonds. We always try to look for ways to achieve cost savings whenever possible. So one of the ways is by refinancing the sales tax revenue bonds that we currently have. Brian will talk to you in a bit later in more detail as we are trying to refinance one of the bonds. The other major component we have is pension and OPEB. So I think, as you can see, our pension liability is slightly increased by about 0.5 million in 2024. I mentioned that with CalPERS, we always report 1 year in arrear. So as you can see, the market returns changed from fiscal year 22 to 23. It slightly dropped, and that's what triggered the pension liability to increase a little bit. Whereas for the other post-employment benefit or OPEB, our net OPEB asset also slightly decreased for the same reason. Net position and fund balances, we talked a lot about that early on. The reason for the net position deficit was due to the fact that we're holding all the debt, but not the assets. And so we're just the transportation agency that financing all these projects without holding the assets. However, since we started Measure C, we've been keeping track in the capital project side every year. And based on our record, we have been contributing about 2.03 billion of capital assets to the Contra Costa County. Lastly, we have the statistical section that I mentioned earlier. It displays the 10-year trend of the authority's financial information, such as the net position, changes in net position, sales tax revenue, debt, economic and demographic information, and the operating information, such as the number of full-time employee, the capital assets that we have internally, number of payments, purchase order, contracts that we are issuing, and all the different operating indicators information that you can find here. And with that, I'll turn it over to David. He's from Mason Associates. He will talk to you about their audit process, their role, and updates on the internal control and all the other required communications.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is David Alvey, and I'm a CPA and audit partner with Mason Associates, and we are the authority's independent external auditor. And my role every year is to come in and to render an opinion on whether or not the financials that you have in front of you tonight are free from material misstatement. And before we get into that, I just want to go into just a really high-level overview of the audit process. We use a risk assessment based approach. So it's kind of like the scientific method where you come in with an idea of what you think you're going to get, and then you do testing on that and you change your plan as information comes. So we come in thinking a certain level of internal controls. If there's more, if there's less, then we have to change what we do. And our audit is broken into two phases. The interim phase, which was back in the summer, where we come in and we're looking at internal controls. We're strictly looking to make sure not a single person can initiate, approve, and book a transaction without a second set of eyes on that, because that could be ripe for fraud or error. And so we're looking at your disbursements, we're looking at your payroll, your cash receipts, those sort of things, making sure that not only are there checks and balances in there, but there's also that staff are following the policies and procedures that you implement, looking at your purchasing policy, your investment policy, that sort of thing. And then once we get an idea of kind of the bones of the internal control environment, we turn that piece of our brain off, and we come back once the books are closed and we have the trial balance. Now, we're using that information that we learned back in the interim to see how much of those balances we have to test at final. So we're sending confirmations to U.S. Bank and to your financial advisors. We're confirming the debt. We're confirming legal counsel, make sure there's no outstanding claims. We look at how you book your capital assets, like you had your addition of your lease. And after we're all done with our testing, the last bit we get is the management representation letter. It's signed by management saying that they've given us everything in full faith, not withholding any information, that they understand that these financial statements are management's financial statements. And my role is to come in and just to confirm that what you see in front of you is correct. And I'm pleased to say on page 1 of the report, that's the ACFR, is the audit opinion. And it is an unmodified or clean audit opinion, and that's the highest level of assurance that a CPA firm can give an entity, so congratulations. We also had in your consent calendar the single audit. That is required for any recipient of over $750,000 of federal awards. You have DOT money, so that's a compliance audit, so it's slightly different, but no findings, no issues to report there. The second thing that we issue is the Memorandum on Internal Controls and Required Communication. This is also known as a management letter. And it's my firm's communication to this governing body of things that we found during the audit. And they can be found in 3 categories. Material weakness, so something material can flow through the internal controls and not get caught. Nothing to report there. The second is significant deficiency, that something significant can flow through and not get caught. Nothing to report. And the catch-all is just other matters, just to let you know upcoming government accounting standards board pronouncements coming down the pipeline. The second half of that document is the required communication. Per auditing standards, I'm required to tell you that we had no disagreements with management. We don't think that management was trying to limit our scope of the audit. We had no issues with management's assumptions. So management's allowed to use assumptions for like fair market value of investments, useful life of capital assets, and technically all the assumptions in the pension and the OPEB have to be signed off by management. So no issues with that. And we don't think that management had a second CPA firm in the wings just in case we didn't issue an unmodified audit opinion. We also are currently working on the Measure J compliance, and we're expected to bring that to you in February. And with that, before I move on, I just want to thank Yuli and Brian for all their help during the audit, and it was a very clean process. And it's interesting as an auditor, even doing this, I'm constantly updating my risk assessment. And part of our risk assessment during our audit is to analyze that, we call it the SKE, S-K-E, skills, knowledge, and experience of finance staff. And the fact that most of that, all of that presentation was done with no notes in front of her really is a testament to the skills, knowledge, and experience.
All right. Thank you, David. That takes us to staff recommendation. We're seeking acceptance of the annual audit reports for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2024. As David mentions, that the Measure J compliance audit is still in progress and projected to be completed by end of the this month. And so there will be on the consent in the next year's calendar. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chair and Commissioners for any questions.
Great, Yuli, thank you. And David, again, thank you and your firm for your expertise. Just before we get started, because we have Darlene and Xavier here, new members, these reports don't match what we're used to seeing because we build things and we give it away. So we have no assets other than the cash. And because then we hold the debt against those things, it's complicated. The other thing is just historically, this agency really over the past 14, 15 years has really become a leader in accounting practices for keeping track of the complexity. And if you see the detail through the report of all the different accountings for every project, every program, it's extraordinary. It makes our capital programs look like, you know, kindergarten kind of stuff. And just as a comparison, that's one of the things that was noted about MTC. That's mega scale. We're a small version of that, so very complex. So with this, we will go to questions from the board, get those answered, then we'll go to public comment, and then bring it back for discussion. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, okay. Terrian, is there anybody online who would like to make public comment on this item?
No public comment, written or verbal.
Is there anybody here present who would like to make any public comment on this item tonight? Seeing none, then we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for action.
I will move the item.
Okay. It's been moved by Noack, seconded by Glover. I would just say one last thing. This is really, I love numbers. And I tell you what, every time I look at it, it still gives me a double take in being able to understand. The one recommendation I would have is under our OPED. The OPEDs were overfunded, which is fine, this is where we should be, but we should go ahead and get that, make it up, and the reason why, we have an event horizon with this agency, and I think it's prudent responsibility. Plus, unlike a lot of other agencies we hear from, CalPERS has to pay us if we're overfunded. They give us a return on it. It's better interest than we get in the marketplace. So that's a good investment. Keeping in the bank, and we're getting barely 4% as an average of 3.8. Putting it there, we're going to get 5.8 to almost 7%. So that's why our OPED, when we made the investment to break even, it's now above because of the interest that we're getting off of that. So just as an agency, and again, our agencies are supposed to be here for the millennium. This agency, because of Measure J, has an expiration date. So just a recommendation, nothing to take action, but something to consider maybe as it goes back to committee. Aaron? Yeah. So with that, it's been moved and seconded. Terrian, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Alt-G?
Yes.
Commissioner Glover?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Meadows?
Yes.
Commissioner Noack?
Yes.
Commissioner Alt-Xavier?
Aye.
Chair Arnrich?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner alternates Obringer and Stepper absent.
Great. Yuli again, and David, thank you again so much. Outstanding. And outstanding in the conciseness and shortness of that. So thank you very, very much. All right, this will take us to item number 8B. And this is an action item, and very exciting to hear from Brian, our CFO. And this is on the authority sales tax revenue bonds and refunding Bond Series 2025A for the purpose of refinancing the Series 2015A bonds for debt service savings. Brian, welcome.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you for all the support during the year. And how could I get up here as the CFO and not comment on the last report that was there? It was a very nice presentation by Yuli, and thank you very much to Mays for the audit. Thank you for the comments to all of the support to staff on that. With that, I'm here to talk to you about the refunding of bonds. And so, as we talked about not holding any assets, delivering our program, what we used to do or what we continue to do is we leverage the funding in Measure J. And what we're able to do is, for those of you who are new to CCTA, those of you who have been around quite a while with CCTA, you know we'll go out and we'll get bonds, we'll use, expedite the projects and different things that we do so that we can deliver to the citizens. And as you saw, we've delivered over $2 billion of projects, and that's pretty darn good compared to the sales tax we've collected on that. And so in order to do that, it's just like buying a home. We go out and we get an interest rate. Interest rates fluctuate. We're at a point in time now that we can refinance the 2015 bonds. It's 10 years after we've issued them. So in March is the next principal payment. So at that point in time, we can go ahead and call the bonds. And what that does is it allows us the opportunity to enter into the market. Melissa with KNN sitting next to me right now will go into all the details on that and give you some updates on the interest rates that happened today. And so what we did, we came to you in October and said, hey, can we go out and can we start this process? You said, go ahead. And so what we did is we selected our team. We selected the bond council. We did an RFP, looked at several different agencies, went with the one with the most experience and the one that fit our budget. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to, with your approval, we're going to reach out to Fitch. We're going to reach out to S&P. With your approval, we're thinking we're going to be in the second week of January. We're going to meet with the both of them to get our new ratings. And then what we'll do is we'll go back into the market later in January and we'll try and sell our bonds. And again, I just want to, it's not something we have to do. So if the market changes and the interest rates go very high and our interest savings or our savings on interest through 2034 is smaller, we'll make a decision at that point in time to move forward or wait, or, you know, that's what we've hired Melissa to do, to make sure that we're making the best move, but we'll be here to facilitate that as well. As we kind of looked at the financials earlier, we went into all of this detail at APC. Just some highlights here. There's $346,000 of remaining debt. We have callable par is $61 million on the 2015. And again, we're scheduled in 2027 to be in front of you again for the next couple bond series. And this is a great way to have savings and allow us to continue to pay for additional projects. As our sales tax increases, as we have additional funds, we could probably do some other things in the tax expenditure plan that weren't originally planned if there's enough savings. So there's no collateral risk, no counterparty risk, no variable risk in any of our outstanding. It's just fixed rate bonds. And so we're paying right now approximately 5%. If we refinance at 4%, you have some savings. We have another slide that's coming up. We'll kind of go into that. And Melissa can give you some updates on that. And so I pretty much covered 2025. We're going to start to get this refinanced. 2027 will be in front of you again. We'll go through the whole series seeking approvals. This is just for tonight is just about bond documents for 2025. And again, our object is to achieve debt service savings. Let's see. This is the most important piece, is where we get into all of the different rates and how rates are affecting things. And I'm going to turn this over to Melissa to kind of go through the next couple of slides, just letting you know. We're really excited. We get some debt service savings, and some estimates now are on the next couple slides.
Good evening, and pleasure to be here. Before you is just graphing tax-exempt interest rates. And we graphed since the last time CCTA was in the market. And so you'll see when you were last in the market, rates, tax-exempt interest rates were incredibly low. And since that time, they've moved upward. And they moved upward above kind of historical averages, though there, you know, and there's been some volatility over bigger events, volatility leading into the most recent election in November, though we anticipate rates to normalize some leading into the end of this year, following today's announcement by the Fed, and then into the January months. We do find that January is a favorable time to be in the market. Investors seek supply and bonds in January following the holiday weeks. So we'll be closely tracking the interest rate environment, but right now we're targeting a sale in January. But with these kind of approximated interest rates, and Brian, you can turn to the next slide, we do see that there are estimating some good refunding savings associated with your outstanding 2015 bonds. So assuming a single tax-exempt issuance, assuming the pledge of your Measure J sales tax, your current high ratings, AAA by Fitch, AA by S&P, we approximate present value savings of approximately $5.6 million, which achieves kind of annual debt service savings in and around $715,000 each year between 2025 and the term of the tax. So we can go to the next slide. Kind of important to the sale of these bonds is we're recommending pursuing what we say in our market is a competitive sale. And we talked about this at APC. Previously, CCTA has issued its bonds on a negotiated basis where you pre-select an underwriter through an RFP process. And you say, you underwriter, please go sell our bonds. And the reason we did that is, as we all are familiar, the last several transactions had a good amount of complications and complexity as it related to unwinding a portion of your interest rate swap, changing variable rate debt to fixed rate debt, as well as maintaining some variable rate debt. For the proposed transaction, we're simply turning a tax-exempt fixed interest rate into a new tax-exempt fixed interest rate that's lower than what you're paying now. And you have tremendously high credit ratings. Your credit, your pledge of sales tax is highly sought after by bond investors. And so what the competitive sale allows you to do is on the day of sale, we'll offer your bonds to the market, and not just one firm can bid on them, any firm can bid on them. And what it allows is a bit more transparency in the pricing process, and it creates a little bit more competition around the sale of your bonds with the ultimate goal of driving savings higher and achieving a lower interest cost on your bonds. I will say that your packet before you allows for the issuance of the bonds via competitive sale or a negotiated sale. So if market conditions were to change such that we felt a negotiated sale would be better in the best interests of the authority, your approval would allow us to pursue a negotiated sale. And we would do that by selecting an underwriter through a competitive process. But at this point, we expect to issue the bonds on a competitive basis, allowing the entire municipal market, not just a single firm, to bid on your bonds. So the process, though, is similar. In that We'll seek your approval tonight, and then in January, we expect to receive credit ratings on the bonds, and then release what we call a preliminary official statement, which is a prospectus on the authority and the offering. And then we will market your bonds to the market, and then on the day of sale, we will proceed with the pricing. We expect to sell the bonds in late January and then close in the middle of February, assuming the markets are favorable and we're meeting our refunding targets. So that's the process, and happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you, and it's great to see you again as well.
Good to see you.
We'll go to questions. Chris?
Thank you. So just a short question. So today, the Federal Reserve cut its interest rate by 25 basis points. What effect might that have on the refunding of these bonds? Do you care to speculate?
So,
Good or bad,
right?
for us?
It's hard, right? When we think of the Fed, the Fed decisions, that's, around the Fed funds rate, which
Yeah.
is a short-term interest rate, and we're pricing your bonds with interest rates anywhere from 1 year to 10 years. But the Fed's decisions, investors are reactive to it. Today, they were expecting the interest rate cut, and they got it, though the Fed speak anticipated less cuts next year than what maybe the market would have predicted. And so those reactions have implications on the rate market, and treasuries reacted more aggressively than tax-exempt interest rates. Those moved kind of slightly up and down here and there across the yield curve. So we'll monitor the market. I would say much of it is reactionary, more than just the Fed moved this much, so we expect longer-term interest rates to move in a different, a different direction. So I think, it's not necessarily a one-for-one, but they speak to each other in some ways, but that the actual move we saw from the Fed today is just very specific to the short-term rates.
Great, thank you.
I have one question, and it's before you started with us, your company. You guys have done an outstanding job to help us redo our portfolio and get rid of something I was passionate about getting rid of since the day we got it. And we saved a lot of money over the time. But 7 years ago, 3 months, the federal government cut the corporate tax rate. There were clawback clauses in some of our former debt. So our total payment went up. And those were kind of force majeure type things. In the pricing in this type of bond, where does that stand? Did they price into the risk, or these have the same clauses in there that they can say, since these are tax-free, if they change it, then our debt service is going to change?
Yeah, that clause in clawback was in a bond privately placed with a bank. And that clawback was specific to that bank lending on a tax-exempt basis to the authority. With the issuance of tax-exempt bonds in the public market, which we will be doing with this refunding, those clawbacks don't exist. It was very specific to the arrangement with that specific bank and the private placement nature of the transaction.
Excellent. I thought so, but I wanted to hear it from you, and that's why you have been here for so long.
And that's why we did that slide. No more risk, none of these third parties. It's simply tax-exempt fixed-rate debt.
Okay. Any other questions at this time? Now, we'll open up the public hearing. Is there anybody online or in written correspondence, or anybody here present that'd like to speak on this item?
No public comment, written or verbal.
Great. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back, discussion or action.
What's our current rate? Is it 5? Okay.
Yeah.
Effective rate's about 5.
And what would be like a break even where we wouldn't issue new bonds?
Well, your debt policy requires that you at least achieve 3% savings. The numbers that you saw, the savings in the slides, were just below a 3% interest rate that achieved approximately 8% present value savings. So the break even for achieving a 3% present value savings would be, above a 3% interest rate, but below a 5% interest rate.
Okay, thank you.
Great, good question. Sue?
I was just going to move the item.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved by Nowak, seconded by Meadows. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Terry, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Alt-G?
Yes.
Commissioner Glover?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes?
Commissioner Meadows?
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes.
Commissioner Alt-Xavier?
Aye.
Chair Arnrich?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner alternates Obringer and Stepper absent.
Outstanding. Thank you again, and always good to see you, because every time you show up, we save money, so. So anytime you want to come back, if you don't have anything else to do, yeah, welcome. All right, this takes us to item number 8C. This next item is an action item, and it's going to be presented by Ying on the Innovate 680 Bay Area Mobility On Demand Project, also known as an app, Fund Exchange Reserve, an agreement with a Bay Area Rapid Transit District. Bart, Ying, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Good to be here. Thank you for this opportunity for us to provide an update on this project, as well as ask you to consider the staff recommendations. Let's see. All right. It has been a while since we came here to give you an update on the MOD, Mobility on Demand app. First, what this project is, it's an app that will integrate the API of public and private transportation services with the trip planner and payment functions. It will also provide personalized mobility options based on the traveler's needs to enable end-to-end journeys paid for by the rider with a single payment. Just how we got here. This project actually was funded by an $8 million grant from the Federal Highway Administration. We started the project back in March 2020. The project has a goal of reducing congestion and also give people options when they make their travel decisions. So CCTA is the lead in this project with multiple partners, and here are the ones, both the public partners, private partners, as well as our academic partner from UC Berkeley PATH. CCTA has quite a grand vision for this project. We are currently working on phase 1, which is focused on the I-680 corridor and the surrounding communities. In the future phase, we anticipate to expand this to countywide, and in the further future, the phase 2, we hope to expand it to Bay Area-wide. Currently, again, we're only working on phase 1. And here's our schedule. We have experienced some delays, and which I will go into a bit more details. The current schedule is to launch the app in the spring 2025 for 8-month pilot. Just want to give you more background of what this app does. It allows the user to access many modes of transportation on the same platform in real time, including transit, as well as other functions like bicycle and pedestrian, car shares, and SAVs. I'm going a bit too fast. I want to show you some interface on how this works. The traveler will be able to see the different options available to them, and they can choose different, depends on the needs and type of day as well as the locations. Transit office is one of the options, but maybe on some other times for other trips, they may want to use other, for example, the car share options that may be more suitable for them. And again, it's a one-stop shop. Those are the mobility options available to them. We also call them mobility assets in this app. I think you're probably very familiar with the trip planning function. And there's also the in-app payment, which makes the app very unique compared to many other apps available. And they will, the travelers will also be able to earn rewards, especially when they choose a so-called greener option like transit, biking, and walking. And they can use the reward tokens to pay for future trips. We do experience some challenges, mostly first caused by COVID. So not only COVID delayed the project, it also, we have several providers that even either left the area or went out of business. So it was taking staff and our consultants quite a bit of time to re-engage either new providers or re-engage the ones that provided. In this year, we have came to you about a new car share provider because AAA left the area. And there's impact on not only the schedule as well as on budget. I do want to talk about BART. BART is a key public partner in this project. They are responsible for the app development. We have, because of delay, we have paused the project to really minimize the impact on project management. So even when their app developers are not actively working on integration, there's still the project management cost. So we put a pause to really conserve our budget. But even with the pause, BART has incurred project management costs. They submitted over time 2 change orders totaling $1.4 million. We have, in the process, we have kept our federal partners, our guarantors, in the loop. So they are aware of the issues. We have very well explained the delay to them. So that's why FHWA was able to grant us some extensions that you also approved in the recent years. Want to just go back to the BART amendment. As I mentioned, there's a total of $1.4 million in change order. That's the additional budget that BART has requested from us. Authority staff as well as our executive director have engaged BART at different levels, staff as well as the executive team in multiple meetings and with negotiations. At the end, we did reach an agreement to compensate BART for $550,000 for all this additional effort and also ensure that they complete the app development and meet other grant requirements. So this is what is in front of us is with this BART amendment. We are recommending one is to approve the resolution 2465P, which will authorize utilizing $550,000 in the fund exchange reserve, and also seek authorizations to execute amendment number 1. If you approve staff recommendations, we'll be able to lift the pause and re-engage BART and other partners and continue stay on track to finish the rest of the steps. At the APC meeting, there were questions about the FAR fund. So as you can see, the total commitment with your approval will be $11.3 million. That will leave just over $3 million in the FAR reserve balance. That concludes my presentation, and we're happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Ying. Any questions, Sue?
So how does the back-end payment allocation process and who will handle that? If you're making that payment, one payment on the app, who's going to distribute it to the different agencies they're using?
Yeah, we have an agreement with BART, and that's part of the functions, and it will go back to, through the, I think I need some help here. I think is part of the app development. There's a back-end function to redistribute the payments to the transit operators as well as others, so-called mobility access operators, like car share or bike share.
So how do the awards work? If you can use walking tokens to then get a free something else, who compensates for those?
That is part of the grant. We use the grant funds to pay for those rewards. So for example, if one have enough transit trips, they may get a credit in their so-called wallet, the token, to be able to take a new transit trip. And that's also in-app, and we use the grant funds to pay for the rewards.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Chris?
Yeah, a question about the app. So would I have to load this app with cash, kind of like I do my Clipper account?
You will, this is, it's not integrated into Clipper.
I realize that, but
Yep.
you know, I've got so much money in my Clipper account. I keep track of that. Will I also have to load money into this account in order to use this, in order to pay for whatever I choose?
Yeah, in the app, like within this I-680 corridor. So you will have to have a separate account to like link with your payment to be able to use this app.
Okay, and this will only function right now on the I-680 corridor. This is going to be this pilot.
Yeah, so phase one is this, that's how it is. We see phase two will be really a real integration with Clipper. So it's not like a perfect solution, but we do need a phase one to test it out, to see how all those multiple providers all work together within one app. So for phase one, we will say you do have to open a different account to use it. We really hope phase two will really integration with Clipper 2, and that's when you don't have to have multiple accounts.
Yeah, and we don't know when Clipper 2 is going to be active, do we?
I don't
There's
think
no
there's a
firm
reliable
date yet,
schedule.
yeah.
Right, there isn't a reliable schedule.
Okay. Now, it's conceivable that I could use this app just for wayfinding, and then, you know, when I got, let's say I wanted to go on BART, I could just use my Clipper card without having to load money onto here. I know that may not be ideal, but, you know, I'm going to have a Clipper card, and then I'm going to have an app, and I have an Uber account and a Lyft account and all of that.
I can see for the very experienced transit riders, you have those options available to you. Yes, you could compare the options and use Clipper to pay for, say, a county connection bus ride. That is possible, but not everyone knows how to do that.
Right, I understand. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Other questions?
Can I just do a follow-up? So if it's on the I-680 corridor, there's not really that much of BART. So how does BART come into play, or don't they really? Or is it to transit just to the BART stations? And I'm not quite sure I understand where BART comes in if it's only the I-680 corridor.
Yeah, I think the partnership, actually, Tim Papa knows, like, the longer history. BART was really, day one was like, we engaged them as a partner, a fund partner, right?
But I was going to just say, it's also, that's the purpose. Since BART is the main transit in the Bay Area, all of these, and this is just the test pilot to do one little section, we know, based on other places in the world, these apps work really well. But ultimately, it is about getting people and connecting them to your major transit operator, which in the case is BART. So it makes logic sense that they are. In this test case, you're right, it's really just bus or car share to a BART station, either direction on 680. It's a limited test pilot. Tim, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No, you're spot on. I mean, that's based on a lot of the lessons learned that we have from other countries. In order to make mobility as a service work, you have to have an anchor, like in the system, and that's BART in this case. And so, but to answer your question, Commissioner Nowak, it's primarily focused on 680, Walnut Creek BART Station, and then also the North Concord BART station and the Concord BART station. So those three BARTs, because that's all Concord, Pleasant Hill, that's all part of the 680 corridor. So it's not just limited just to Walnut Creek BART, but it's also tying in basically transit for county connection, it's tying in the shared mobility hubs, it's tying in the first and last mile, which would be car share, bike share, and all of these things are primarily going in Walnut Creek, which is gonna be feeding into Walnut Creek BART.
I mean, with the TNCs are there, but the bike and
So
car share
we're putting
stuff-
them in as part of the project,
Okay,
yeah.
and so when's the pilot supposed to take place?
So everything is getting integrated, so ideally, we'll be able to launch everything by like spring of next year. So
Spring of '26?
25,
6 months.
yes, spring of 25, basically.
You're gonna have all those mobility share
And
things there?
so the idea is to have, leverage existing mobility providers already. So for example, like in Bishop Ranch, they already have a bike share program down there that's gonna be integrated into it. And then also for the car share program, it was already mentioned in there that we're gonna have the car share program, there's gonna be cars deployed, in Walnut Creek, and then also down in Bishop Ranch. And so those will be deployed, and then mainly it'll have the transit element, the BART element, and then it'll have these integrations with Uber and Lyft. So, and then it should also have the shared autonomous vehicle in it at Bishop Ranch as well. So there's probably a half a dozen mobility options, whether they be existing or be provided by the time the launch starts. I think the only thing that hasn't been deployed yet is the car share component. Like the existing bike share is out there already, transit's already out there. Obviously, the TNCs are already out there. So the last thing to really implement is the car share, and then those half a dozen mobility providers will be fully deployed in the project limits.
And so while you have 3 BART stations, it's not really gonna pay for the BART ride though, right? Or is it? No.
No, so it's really intended to be like this. It's intended to be like this mobility wallet. So what'll happen is you'll still use your Clipper card to use for BART on your phone, because you can't integrate Clipper into the app because it's a closed system. And so now we're waiting for Clipper 2.0 to come. Once Clipper 2.0 comes, then we'll be able to better integrate Clipper into the mobile app to where you won't have to really leave the app to pay for BART. It'll all be like there in one app. So, but ideally what's happening is you've got this mobility wallet similar to your Apple Wallet. And so as you're booking rides, those rides will be in your mobility wallet. And so as you're going through your journey, it's just picking up those tickets that you're purchasing through the app as you're going through your journey, whether that be Uber, Lyft, or bike share or car share. All those things will just be available to you. So you just have to basically just tap your phone like you do with Clipper and BART.
Oh, at every point.
At every point, you just tap your phone.
So it's much more of a mobility wallet than.
It's a mobility wallet. Yeah, it's a mobility wallet. So basically you tap your phone, and when you get to each of those points, and it just starts paying for things because it already has all those things booked in your mobility
I misunderstood,
wallet.
because it sounded to me like you planned a trip and you paid once and it covered the whole trip, but you're paying at every.
It's tap and go.
It's
Tap and-
yeah,
tap and go.
it's
It's
tap
more
and
of a
go for
mobility
each of
wallet.
the individual rides that you're getting in the app. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tap and go. So
I just want to make sure that when we start the pilot, sufficient resources are out there to really test it, rather than, limited number. So
Well,
I
it's-
just want to make sure there's sufficient of that to really make a pilot
Advertising.
worthwhile.
yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
It will be limited though to only, so it's a pilot. It's going to be a closed pilot too. So it's only going to be limited to 1,000 people?
Yeah, it's 1,000.
They've
So
already
it's,
signed
it's,
up
li-
for
it's
it.
going to be limited to 1,000 people in the
We
corridor.
had to limit it
Yeah,
because
so
so
it's
many
not,
people
it's
signed
not
up.
gonna be this broad deployment, it's very much a demonstration of the app. And what we hope to do is learn from the app, what works, what doesn't work, and then work all the kinks out. Think of it like almost as a soft launch, really, that's really what it is. It's a soft launch with 1,000 users to get feedback, demo it, and then see what works, what doesn't work, and then continue to refine, and then we do a full deployment after that, so, yeah.
Right, and its ultimate goal is to get it done before Clipper 2.0 comes out. So the idea is that you can work out the bugs and stuff and eventually make this seamless. And then others can use this, could be an open platform.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the vision, in terms of like this kind of connected mobility vision, I mean, we believe this mobility as a service app is like really key. Because as you start building out like a network of shared mobility hubs and all these first and last mile services over the next, X amount of years, that app is gonna be really the glue that kind of holds all that stuff together into one place. So it's easy to use, easy to get to, easy to navigate. You'll be able to do digital wayfinding with it. You'll be able to use this app for a lot of things. And then it'll be available and it'll actually be a really great touch point with the general public because we'll be able to, build a following through the app, be able to inform them on what's happening in the transportation system, whether it be, let's say, for example, there's an accident or a construction or something like that. It's gonna be a way it's gonna be like a Google app on steroids where we can like really communicate and inform the public of what's actually happening in the transportation system.
So, and the price tag at this point just gets us through the pilot, right? But then there's going to be additional costs once the pilot's done.
Yeah, there'll be additional costs, and ideally what would happen is through Innovate 680 and through our commitments with VMT mitigation, we're supposed to triple our TDM costs for the corridor, so that's gonna be a potential fund source. And then I think just countywide TDM could be a potential fund source to maintain the O&M of it. And so if you think even farther ahead, the idea is hopefully what we do is we digitize a lot of the Contra Costa File 1 programs and put it in the app. We digitize a lot of the accessible transportation programs and put it in the app. And so it really starts becoming like this like go-to one-stop shop for everyone and everything relative to transportation in Contra Costa County. I mean, that's kind of the vision for it. It's gonna take time to get there, but that's the vision.
Chris?
And once it integrates with Clipper 2, then I could take, for example, a bike share program to a County Connection, then take County Connection to BART. Then I could get on BART. And I could go anywhere on BART, at least in one direction out. Could I use that to come back even if I'm in Daly City? So it would work then?
Yes.
Okay.
Any BART access point.
Okay, cool.
And if we do it right, we can also integrate all transit into it as well. I mean, that's BART's goal. BART's goal is to integrate all 27 transit agencies in this thing because they see, as you all know,
It'll help them.
Well, it helps them because it helps transit, a better bus feeder access first and last mile to BART. That's their goal as well, so.
Great, thank you. Great questions. Darlene?
Yeah, the question I have is, so you enter the trip you want to take into the app, right? You say, or the app knows where you are, it knows your location, right? And you say, I want to get to here. Mm-hmm. Is the app then giving you options for how to get there, or is it optimizing it? Is it saying this is the best or the least expensive, or?
Yes, and plus any emission impacts they'll show you. So it's a way to encourage people to choose the greener options. Yes, yes.
That's great.
It'll also fit within your preferences too. So let's say, for example, you're like, I'm never gonna take a bike share, or I'm never gonna take a scooter. So you can like turn that choice off in the app. And so you'll be able to like, based on all of the mobility options that are available in the app, you'll be able to show your preferred ones. And then it'll do the trip planning around your preferred modal choices in the app. And then it'll give you based on cost, based on environment, based on time, all these different options.
Excellent questions. Any other questions at this point? Seeing none, we will go open it up for public comment. Is there anybody online or here in person who'd like to comment on this item?
We have no public comment, written or verbal.
Thank you. We'll close the public comment and back to the board for action.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Glover, seconded by Kelly. Any further comments? Seeing none, Terry, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Alt G?
Yes.
Commissioner Glover?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Meadows?
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes?
Commissioner Alt Xavier?
Aye.
Chair Arnrich?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner alternates Obringer and Stepper absent.
Great, thank you. Ying, thanks very much for that update, and Tim, thank you for all those details. All right, this will take us to item number 9A, and this is going to be presented by Colin, and this is the draft final Contra Costa, I always hate to say this, I have to go slower. Contra Costa Countywide Comprehensive Transportation Safety Action Plan. And you can't even pronounce that acronym.
CCTSAP.
Colin, thank you, and welcome.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Colin Clark, Contra Costa Transportation Authority, Planning Department. I have Matt Broughton with us from Kittleson, and we also had Kimley Horn help with this project over the last year or so. So, So yeah, what is the CCTSAP? We apologize for the long title, but it was to be consistent with the Vision Zero guide that the Authority Board adopted in 2021. And so it's an MTC-funded effort and was a pilot of sorts to start out trying the BayViz tool that MTC developed as a data dashboard and mapping safe system analysis tool for how to eliminate fatal and severe injuries regionally across the 9 counties, but with a focus on Contra Costa, of course. And so the idea of this plan was also to allow and empower local agencies to be their own lead applicant. So US DOT, in terms of the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program, the idea is to, in terms of the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, which was a term of art from the SS4A program, the idea was to help local agencies in checking more boxes, being more competitive nationally, and addressing more compliance and more consistency countywide across jurisdictions in terms of the safe system approach. And so there's quite a bit of community engagement throughout the process, including public engagement in person through community event series, leveraging the existing events that we had as part of the CTP, the Countywide Transportation Plan, and other efforts. We also had a website with interactive mapping that allowed users to map and locate and identify different areas of concern in each of the different jurisdictions countywide that may or may not have been represented in some of the collision data. And so these are some of the areas that were engaged over this time. And just a real quick kind of refresh on the Vision Zero concept and the safe system approach. So the Vision Zero policy that the Authority Board adopted in 2021 acknowledges that human error is inevitable, and it is possible to eliminate fatal and severe injuries, and it's doing so through a safe system approach that identifies shared responsibility in terms of across all the modes, and also in the sense of, for example, the Countywide Vision Zero Working Group, the multidisciplinary nature of planners, engineers, public health experts, and a whole host of other expertise all have a role to play in this. So this is a slide from the 2021 analysis in terms of common countywide collision patterns. And so this is just a refresher in terms of some of the patterns that were identified from a decade of analysis, 2008 through 2017, and going into this new CCTSAP effort, it was a decade of 2013 through 2022, and piloting this tool. And so in terms of the safe system approach and how speed is a major factor in determining survivability and medical manageability of whether or not a pedestrian can survive a collision. This kind of shows what that likelihood is and helps demonstrate. For example, if you've probably heard a lot about AB 413, the law that will become enforceable January 1st in terms of daylighting the last 20 feet of each intersection approach, increasing visibility for all modes. So as part of this analysis, I'll have Matt speak to the collision data analysis that went into identifying different locations.
Yeah, and so what this is showing is the results of both that BayViz pilot with the red lines are the locations that are identified by the MTC tool for the high injury network. This will be building upon the Vision Zero guide network that was developed previously, the 2017 one that Colin just mentioned. And then in addition to that, we're also layering on top, again, the goal of this being that multi-jurisdictional focus to layer in locally identified locations as well, which are what are shown on the map in the orange. And together these kind of represent that collection of, across the region, what are the priorities that we want to achieve to help reduce fatal and serious injuries countywide.
And just want to quickly add that in terms of the safe system approach and the adopted Vision Zero policy, the idea is to use the high injury network and these different locations to get to zero faster and save lives, and moving toward a more proactive approach over time that's not necessarily as reliant on collision data.
And so when we talk about what types of crashes are associated with fatal and serious injuries across the county, you can see hit object, so that's somebody running off the road, running into a tree, going off the road into a ditch, or hitting a signal pole, something along those lines. So that's associated with 22% of fatal and serious injury crashes across the county. And then pedestrian-involved collisions being the second highest. If you think that, note that pedestrian or walking trips are about 10% of all trips in the county total, and that varies across the county significantly, but 18% of those deaths that are occurring, you can see that there's pretty significant overrepresentation if you're walking in terms of the risk of being killed or seriously injured. And then I'll just note the other two above 10% here of broadside, which is typically associated with intersection-related crashes. You can think of someone running through a red light and hitting somebody going the opposite direction. And then rear-end collisions also representing 12%. And then in terms of countywide common emphasis areas, so we use the term emphasis areas. These are patterns that are associated with fatal and serious injury collisions. And this is based on, and we'll show in just a second, the overall individual jurisdiction identified emphasis areas. But out of those 4 core areas for the CCTSAP of intersections, bicycle-involved collisions, speed management and aggressive driving, as well as pedestrians of being consistent themes identified by, you can see the number of jurisdictions within the county that have identified these as patterns, and so those are priorities that we're looking to focus on as part of this effort.
And I'll quickly add that as part of this effort, the idea was to put together grant applications to move towards zero, and using some of this analysis. And so as part of this planning effort, we've developed multiple grant applications that were each multi-jurisdiction in nature, one of which has already been announced in terms of the Safe Streets and Roads for All, $1.6 million for 6 different cities for addressing the grant application that will get to zero faster.
Yeah, and then just as a reference, each jurisdiction identifies their own, so these are based on their locally adopted local road safety plans. So this is not something that CCTA has any control over what are identified, but out of their individual crash analysis, they identify specific areas that they would like to focus on. These are grouped by the statewide strategic highway safety plan, which is Caltrans' overall vision for achieving zero in terms of fatal and serious injury crashes. And so you can see various jurisdictions take various approaches. Some focus on just a couple, others have a broader basis for that. But just again highlighting where you see running across the horizontal line there, those are the ones where you see the consistency that we want to focus on at that countywide level.
And one of the things that the BayViz tool allows for the local agency users to summarize and analyze is this idea of economic impact from fatal and severe injury collisions. And so it is in Contra Costa $1.3 billion per year, and in coordinating with the RTPCs and the local agencies, we were asked to convert into a per capita figure, and that helps it become a little bit more relatable, but also maybe a little bit more tangible in terms of return on investment. If we focus resources in certain areas, we can actually, eliminate fatal and severe injuries sooner rather than later, and actually save money.
Yeah, and I think just highlighting again, that's per capita. So these are the cost items that are included in that. One thing I did want to highlight, just in terms of that annual cost to the county in terms of those collisions, that's 3 times the cost of the 4th floor on the Caldecott Tunnel. We could put protected bike lanes on every single lane mile within the county, including all the local jurisdictions in 4 years, if that was money that was available for those services. But again, just highlighting here the different costs that go into that. So it's not just the cost of the physical cost of the damage of the crash, it's the injury, it's the loss of life of somebody's productive ability to work. It does not account for the human cost of losing that individual in your family, or that life-changing injury that changes the way that you have to interact with society.
So in terms of next steps and the action item before you, the idea is the resolution 21-40-G that was originally adopted in 2021 and then strengthened in 2022 is before you today with track changes to strengthen it further and also integrate the CCTSAP as the plan as part of the overall guide to help local agencies be more competitive nationally for different grant opportunities, not just SS4A. So far, there's been the City of Walnut Creek, Lafayette, the county, and City of Clayton that have adopted Vision Zero policies, but I'm not aware of adopted Vision Zero policies in many of our other jurisdictions, and so encourage people to coordinate with us. CCTA has a model template that can be kind of copy-pasted and integrated into something that's made locally. In terms of the capital improvements program, the existing repaving program, there's quite a bit of resources in terms of being able to address this with the money we already have, kind of thing. And then the Vision Zero toolbox was what was adopted as part of 2021 as part of the guide. That is still available on the website and encouraged to be applied to different locations, which is one of the things that the CCTSAP was meant and intended to do, and it does. Anything else to add? Happy to receive comments and questions.
Great. Gentlemen, thank you for the presentation. I would just also note that a fairly robust, compared to most of our previous community outreach, the number of participants and things. And our 4 RTCPs, some of them did really deep dives in this and had a great amount of input. So thank you for being able to address that. Question, Sue?
So, you know, a lot of this reduced speed through design and technology, and, you know, obviously you can't put a price on human life, and totally understand that, and love the Vision Zero concept, but do we think about in reducing speeding through design and technology, what are the costs to that? And then what are the costs as far as congestion, additional congestion, if you use road diets? We have a running joke on road diets. I support them. And I didn't, and I ended up winning that one, and he's never let me forget that. So, you know, I just want to understand that, because when, you know, we're implementing right now an intersection, Contra Costa Boulevard in Taylor, and taking away slip lanes, which are obviously, you know, impactful to a lot of pedestrians and bike riders. And the comments that we're getting on what a mess that is and how it's going to increase congestion and the cost and everything else, I'm just wondering, have we looked at the costs on the other side of implementing all those technology and design factors into achieving sort of these goals?
Yeah, I don't know that we've quantified that specifically in this. We do have ways to measure congestion. I'd say that slowing people down doesn't necessarily always equate to more congestion, so you can have a slower speed while still maintaining throughput. I think the core focus of the safe system approach is not necessarily that everywhere everyone is always going a certain speed, but that where we have the conflicts happening between a vulnerable road user, so the graphic that Colin showed of that likelihood of someone dying as a pedestrian hit at different speeds. What we want to do is where a vehicle is traveling in an area, so at an intersection, for example, where they're making the right turn across a crosswalk, that we're managing the speed in that situation so that the car is turning at an appropriate speed that reduces the likelihood of a fatal and serious injury collision occurring, and so protecting that vulnerability. It's not that every single road we're suddenly going to go down to a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. It's that when we might separate the bicyclists and pedestrians physically so that they're not interacting, they're not in a bike lane directly adjacent to 55-mile-an-hour traffic anymore, but they're in a protected bike lane or on a shared use path separated from that roadway. So there's a number of different design tools, and whenever we do a project like that, we do always evaluate what the impact in terms, or we often do what would be a level of service evaluation to understand what some of those congestion impacts would be in terms of the operations.
And if I can add that channelized right turns were identified as one of the top 10 common countywide collision patterns from the data set 2008 through 2017 that was adopted in 2021. And some of the analysis, this analysis from the one adopted in 2021 had focused specifically on pedestrian priority areas that were identified in the countywide bike and ped plan. And so, you know, key areas where there's anticipated to be a higher density of pedestrian and cycling use, for example.
Yeah, you know, I live in a town that there's a school like on every 3 blocks, and so almost every intersection qualifies for that stuff. And so, you know, but we're also a city that gets a lot of through traffic, and so if you start doing all that, I mean, we already have some significant congestion problems. If we start doing that in a massive way, Pleasant Hill will come to a grinding halt. So I just want to make sure we are analyzing, you know, all of it, and that the sort of responsibility is shared across the board, and you know, making sure we've got the cost benefit analysis done correctly.
Definitely, and part of the countywide smart signals project, not to steal John Huang's thunder, but you know, it's doing a lot of things, including addressing safety and congestion and throughput, all as part of that project.
Turns to get through South Lake Pleasant Hill today, getting here, so.
Sue, thank you. Those are really great questions. Any other questions of staff? Kent?
Just a quick FYI. So the presentation in the packet is the one we had at planning. So it's, because you made some changes based on some comments from the planning commission or the planning committee. The one we have in the packet is different than yours. It's the one we had at planning.
The chart is the primary, the pie chart is, our pie chart is very different from your pie chart.
This one, right?
Yeah, so, well, like we talked about, the per capita costs and those types of things. So it's just want to make sure for the record.
Right.
I'll point you out.
All right, I was going to say the online version has both presentations in there, so, yeah, the packet has one.
Chair.
Okay, Chris. Oh, I'm sorry, Xavier.
In San Pablo, our accidents have gone up dramatically this year with pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries, but several fatalities. And I've discussed it with our police chief on a couple of occasions. Our police department is trying to do a community thing. The biggest problem is the drivers, the DUIs, drivers on drugs and alcohol. They're the ones that have caused the fatalities. So our police department is actively trying to change that somehow. And we do have 2 complete streets projects. One was just finished, Rumway Boulevard. That's made quite a difference. I'm a pedestrian. I can see it when I'm walking. The difference that it's made for the safety of the pedestrians, for the people in the bike lanes, and so on, and the road diet. People complained when that was under construction. I was always getting complaints about, oh, it's going to be so congested. It's not. The road diet didn't hurt anybody. It helped. I just wanted to let you know that. Thanks.
Yes, Chris.
So if our cities adopt this Vision Zero plan with the CCTSAP, then ideally we can follow a lot of these guidelines, and this could help us get money, get grants to install some of these safety features. Is that right? Is that what this is all about?
Yeah, that is the intent. And then the appendix is individually tailored to each jurisdiction so that it's as plug and play as it can be in terms of an addendum or a supplement to the local road safety plan to be adopted locally along with a Vision Zero policy. And then as part of that same appendix, there are recommended projects that used the safe system approach. So for example, you know, a similar treatment to 20 different intersections kind of thing is addressed in the project list.
Okay, and I would just hope that because our jurisdictions are different and the widths of our streets are different and some of them are limited. For example, we have, you know, rail lines going over one of our main streets and we just can't widen the street at all. So hopefully that would be taken into account. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think the RTCPs, some of the jurisdictions that came up with that, so I think what was changed in the plan is that there's the principle, and then the tailoring is based on the uniqueness of your jurisdiction, your city, and what you're trying to solve. If you're having more pedestrian auto, that you can adapt your solutions, but the overall Vision Zero gets you to the doorstep so that you can get support financially for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of street typologies, arterials versus collectors versus, you know, other street typologies, the idea is to try to make more consistent an approach that can be applied across jurisdictional boundaries.
Right. I mean, for example, in our case, a little different. Our fatal pedestrian accidents are all on arterials. They're all 40 to 50 to 60 miles an hour. We fortunately, in the rest of our highest speed limit in Danville is 45. The other 3 arterials are 40. and everything else is 25. And so it's interesting, we have almost no pedestrian fatalities in a very long time, except on the arterials. So ours is a little different than maybe. Pleasant Hill has almost highways running through it from different directions and a whole bunch of cut-through traffic. But, I mean, just the scale of the roads. Yeah, I guess. Pacheco Boulevard or whatever, Contra Costa Boulevard. Yeah. So anyway, the point is that that makes us all different, and this plan allows for that accommodation. So, okay, at this time, we will open up public hearing for public comments. Is there anybody? I see Bruce rising. Bruce, welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Bicycle here is probably representing vulnerable road users, although your executive director commutes by bicycle to work each day, and that's wonderful. You notice the two bicyclists are wearing hats here tonight. Thank you. I probably have about 250,000 miles on my bicycle over my lifetime. I did own a car back in the dim, distant past. In fact, I married into it and divorced out of it, and haven't had a car since 1978, so that's over 40 years. Over my lifetime, I've had 5 altercations with cars. 2 were hit and run, 3 resulted in hospitalizations, but I still ride my bicycle. Thank you very much for the countywide comprehensive transportation safety action plan.
Bruce, thank you very much for that comment. Is there anybody online or any written comments on this item?
No additional public comment.
Great, then we'll close the public hearing on this, and we'll bring it back for discussion or action. Chris?
I'll move the item to adopt the CCTSAP.
I will second that.
You said that well, CCTSAP.
I learned from Colin.
We had it at planning.
TSAP. Cool. Okay, it's been moved by Kelly, seconded by Carlson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Terry, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner Alt-G?
Yes.
Commissioner Glover?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Meadows?
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes?
Commissioner Alt-Xavier?
Aye.
Chair Arnrich?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Alternates Obringer and Stepper absent.
Excellent. Gentlemen, Colin, thank you for this, and thank you for the, particularly here in the past few weeks, there was lots of input from our fellow agencies here on this, and thank you for getting this all together and getting it across the threshold, as we say. So thank you. All right, this will take us to item number 9B, and this is an action item going to be presented by Rashida, and on the City of Richmond's Paratransit Performance Improvement Plan and the authority's Richmond Paratransit Service Plan requirements and their metrics. Rashida, it is so nice to see you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to sit before you, although through Zoom this evening. Good to see everybody. Everybody looks good. I wanted to present to you the city, an update on the City of Richmond and get an approval on this item. As you know, in September of 2023, the Paratransit Coordinating Council rejected the city's Measure J Program 15 Claims Fund that was presented to them. And as a result, what the subcommittee and the PCC recommended was an audit of the City of Richmond's program. The board did approve the audit for the program, and AMG, led by Laurie Talbert, they actually commenced with the audit, and results of the audit were brought to the board. Continuation with that, we've been monitoring the City of Richmond, and the City of Richmond has outlined a performance improvement plan. And so our goal today, we have LaShonda Wilson here. She's from the City of Richmond. She's going to be giving a presentation on the City of Richmond's improvement plan, and we're going to have an action item for the board after they hear that. Without further ado, I'm going to give the floor to LaShonda so she can go ahead and deliver her presentation.
Great. Thanks, Rashida. LaShonda, welcome.
Thank you so much. This is my first time here. So thank you, Chair and members of the CCTA Board. Again, my name is LaShonda White. I'm a Deputy City Manager over Community Services with the wonderful City of Richmond. And I'm really happy to be here to present this information to you. I first do want to thank CCTA staff, including Mr. Hale, as well as Rashida, been extremely supportive in helping us get to this point. Also, our City Council, City Manager Shasa Curl, City paratransit staff, they've been working very hard at implementing and working on the performance improvement plan. And we also have a consultant that couldn't be here tonight with us who has been supporting us in implementation of the plan as well. So just a little bit of background regarding Richmond's paratransit program. It has been in existence since 1976, so almost 50 years of service to the Richmond community and surrounding communities. Our clientele includes seniors over the age of 55, as well as individuals with disabilities starting at the age of 18. They can be residents of Richmond, as well as individuals from the unincorporated areas, and we do have a map. We provide two different types of service as part of our program. We have traditional van service, which is door to door. We really, our staff go meet the individuals who need support at their door, bring them to the van, take them, help them get to their appointments. And then we also entered into a partnership with Lyft about 6 years ago, which is an opportunity for individuals who opt in to have Lyft as a service provider can get to where they need to go using Lyft. And we do have a lot of individuals who have chosen that as a method that is 24/7 for individuals who want that option. So as I stated, we have our transit service with our city vans, but we also have a on-call contractor called Transmetro that allows us to provide additional services when we can't take the call. And that allows us really not to have to say no to anyone who needs a door-to-door van pickup. And it's seamless for the client. They call the City of Richmond's paratransit program. If we are able, as city staff, to pick up the clients, and we do have our program in-house. We don't outsource it outside of the on-call service that we have. But they call, and if we can pick them up, we do, or we'll let them know we're unable to, but we're going to call our on-call service provider, Transmetro, and they will come pick you up. So everything is still done through our city staff dispatch. And then for those individuals who decide they want to be a part of our paratransit program, they have the option of calling and using a van, or they can use Lyft. And we have seen a huge increase over the 6 years in individuals who have opted in on their own to use Lyft. Here is a map of our service area. If you know Richmond geographic area is very interesting. So anyone who lives in Richmond has access to the service, but we also receive funding through Measure J to support areas such as Kensington, or individuals who live in areas such as Kensington and the unincorporated areas of North Richmond and El Sobrante. As Rashida mentioned, the audit was done in early 2024, and the focus of the audit was on our van program. So it didn't really look at Lyft, acknowledged that it existed, but the focus was on how do we improve our van service. And that audit included 29 recommendations, which city staff quickly responded to. And what came out of the audit were some high-level things that the City of Richmond needed to really focus on. Number one, we needed to decide if we wanted to continue to provide our paratransit services. We needed to prepare a performance improvement plan, which is something that is before you tonight. We needed to lower our admin, our overhead costs, and we also needed to hire, in 2025, we'll need to hire a dedicated paratransit coordinator. So we met internally, and as a city, before we were even able to go to City Council because they were on recess, after receiving the letter from the CCTA board, giving us some very clear instructions for how to move forward. In June, one of those instructions was if we wanted to continue to provide the program, that we needed to submit a letter of intent by July 20th, which we did. It is, continues to be our intent to provide paratransit service to Richmond and others, because we know that it's a really important program and we want to continue to be on that path of a continuous improvement. It also stated that if we wanted to continue the program, we also needed to develop a performance improvement plan, which we did. We developed a PIP and submitted that by the deadline. A month later, we were able to go to the PCC and present on our performance improvement plan and share some early success. We also were able to go to City Council once they came back from their recess in October, and our City Council approved our performance improvement plan. They acknowledged the audit. They also decreased the cost pool allocation and capped it at 20%. And also, which also includes, in terms of the performance improvement plan, our intent to hire a paratransit coordinator. And in addition, as part of the performance improvement plan, with the help of our consultant, our city staff is really rolling up their sleeves with the consultant and doing some in-depth analysis monthly to look at our ridership. We're looking, really focused on outreach and just monitoring and evaluating our services so we can improve them. In November of 2024, CCTA staff created a document called the Condition of Continued Service Funding, Requirements and Metrics. For short, we'll call it a review plan. And that was to make sure that the City of Richmond, CCTA, were on the same page around how do we continue to move forward in a path of continuous improvement and create some metrics that we needed to meet. So we went back and forth and came to agreement on some metrics, which is part of your packet tonight. We were able to resubmit our Measure J claim form for fiscal year 24-25, and that was quickly, the Paratransit Coordinating Committee was able to come together, the subcommittee, and recommend approval of that. We were able to incorporate the reduced cost pool and some other things into that revised claim form. Really happy that the PCC subcommittee, as well as the PCC and the Planning Committee of CCTA, all approved our recommendation for this body to approve our Measure J claim form. I know that's before you in the next item. Just to go a little deeper into our two programs, again, we have the traditional van service, but we also have the Lyft. And for many years, we were focused on providing information in our claim forms just about our van service. But people were asking us what is happening with Lyft in case it was a model that other jurisdictions were interested in utilizing. And as about 6 years ago, we partnered with Lyft, and individuals are able to either call and get support to do a Lyft a ride, or they can go on the app, which many people do. And what we have found over the years, and I'll show you in this slide, is there has been a steady increase in the number of trips. So in 21-22, a little bit over 8,000 trips, went up to almost 13,000. In 23-24, 17,000. We believe that for Lyft trips, we will reach 23,000 trips for seniors and individuals with disabilities who are opting in to use this service instead of the traditional van service. And so really excited about that. We believe that our claim form is complete and accurate, and that it's responsive to all of the recommendations that were included in the audit. Once again, we believe that we're excited that we are on the road to provide almost 25,000 trips to those who want to use Richmond's paratransit program. We thank you for the opportunity to be before you today. Hope that you approve staff's recommendation, as well as the PCC's and the Planning Commission's recommendation, or Planning Committee's recommendation, to approve our performance improvement plan, the metrics that we were able to work with CCTA staff on, and then in the next item to approve our Measure J claim form. With that, I thank you, and I'm open to questions.
Great. LaShonda, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your detailed response. Maybe we can bring back Rashida as well.
Yes, thank you, LaShonda.
Yeah, thank you.
I would be remiss if I don't say that although this process has taken almost a year, unlike previous years, when I worked for County Connection, I was actually part of the subcommittee. I've been part of the subcommittee for almost 5 years, and then had to do the unusual task of switching and becoming the liaison between CCTA and the PCC in this particular process. For the first time since being part of that subcommittee program in the past 5 years, there have definitely been some great results presented by the City of Richmond. I believe the PCC and the subcommittee and CCTA making the decision as gatekeepers of the City of Richmond's funds and Measure J funding, holding accountable, not just writing a check, but holding accountable the types of services that needed to be provided for the residents of Richmond, and going through this actual process is a testament to not only our accountability, that CCTA's accountability, our authority board's accountability, but also the accountability of all those that receive this type of funding, and making sure that we provide the types of services that our residents actually need. The City of Richmond has put an incredible effort into not only training, marketing material, going over data, hiring and retaining the consultants, Wayne Tonda, that work with them. In collaboration with CCTA staff, myself, we spent quite a bit of man hours going over this information, and the City of Richmond staff have been very agreeable and flexible when it comes to going to their own council members to speak on what is necessary for not only for them to continue the service, but to improve the service that they're offering. So having said that, I really appreciate all the effort that they've put into it. And so back to the recommendation, staff seeks approval of the city's draft performance improvement and the authority's requirements. The PCC and authority will use these documents to detail the conditions of continued Measure J program F-15 funding, as well as conditions for which to measure progress for determining the release of Measure J funds from previous years to the city. And with that, I'll be more than happy to take questions.
Great, Rashida, thank you for that. Thank you for shepherding this through. It has been a long time, but it's good to be where we are right now. So questions, we'll start with Chris.
Not so much a question, because LaShonda, you were at the PC meeting, Planning Committee meeting, and we talked about that. But I just want to thank you, LaShonda, very much from the City of Richmond, and Rashida, thank you for taking this on. Both of you women have really helped to bring this together. This whole issue is a big problem for WCTAC for a long time, and thank you for, setting things straight. And I look forward to seeing the Art Transit move ahead. Really, really appreciate it.
Great, thank you, Chris. Any other questions? Yes, Xavier.
I was on the Paratransit Coordinating Council way back when, up until 2019. And I was also on the subcommittee for the Measure J disbursement. So I'm glad to see that you're at this point. Thank you, Rashida. Thank you, LaShonda. It's great to see this.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Any other questions at this point? I'll just add a little comment before we open the public hearing. Rashida, what you said about the accountability is really important. In the 36-year history of this organization, this was probably the most involved audit that we've had to do. And we are so pleased, as Xavier and Krista said, to be at this point, to have a forward motion plan and still have that accountability to help guide that process. So with that, we'll open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here present who would like to make any public comment, or anybody online or written?
We have no public comment, written or verbal.
All right, thank you. We'll close the public hearing on this and back to the board for action.
Second.
It's been moved by Glover and seconded by Xavier. Any further comments? Seeing none, Terry Ann, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Carlson?
Aye.
Commissioner Alt-G?
Yes.
Commissioner Glover?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Meadows?
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes?
Commissioner Alt-Xavier?
Aye.
Chair Arnrich.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously with Commissioner alternates Obringer and Stepper absent.
Great, so don't move anybody. Now we're going to go to the next part of this, and this will be under 9C, which is also an action item and will be presented by Rashida on the approval of City of Richmond's fiscal year 24-25 Measure J Program 15 claim. Back to you, Rashida.
Thank you. So I know how much you love a concise report. Now that you've actually approved that they run the program for another year, what staff is seeking is the approval of the fiscal year 24-25 Measure J claim, Program 15 claims for the city as recommended by the subcommittee, and approval of the resolution 2316G, which is revision 1, to subtract $32,000 out of the city's FY 23-24 Measure J Program 15 funding allocation to pay for the audit of the City of Paratransit's financial and service delivery. By approving this, that we can actually fund them to run this improved program for next year. And I'll take questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, thank you, Rashida. We'll open up public comment on this. Is there anybody here present or online or written comment?
We have no public comment, written or verbal.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing on this. Back to the board. Chris?
I'll move the item.
Second?
Okay, you beat her. It's been moved by Chris Kelly, seconded by Ken Carlson. Any further comment or discussion? Seeing none, Terry Ann, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Carlson?
Aye.
Commissioner Alt G?
Yes.
Commissioner Glover?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Meadows?
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak?
Yes?
Commissioner Alt Xavier?
Aye.
Chair Arnrich?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner alternates Obringer and Stepper absent.
Thank you so much.
Excellent, Rashida. Again, great to see you. Happy holidays to you. And LaShonda, it's very nice to meet you. Good luck. We would love to hear from you 12 months from now. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this will take us to our next item, item number 11, just associated committee reports, which there is a list there. Takes us to item number 12 under board comments. And now, under the chair's comment, we have a special presentation to make. And to start this off with, let's play the video and it will tell you what the presentation's about. Terry Ann? Dance if you want. Well, I saw a supervisor there who hasn't been on that board for about 8 years, so some of those are from some time ago. We want to thank Mike and Lindy for putting that together. What this is about, so just everybody knows, this is Federal Glover's last official meeting here at CCTA. He is the longest-serving person we have on this board, a quarter of a century. In fact, it's parallel to his career as a county supervisor. He immediately got on to this board. And I would say one of the most important times I knew Federal almost immediately, but I think I really got to know him extremely well during the negotiations on Measure J. And this voice from this man here was extraordinary. His voice was for East County. And at that time, we didn't have as good a leadership in those days. And by the way, that was just about when Oakley was coming as a city. And the voice was, we have to fix Highway 4. It was dangerous. It was unbelievably the worst spot in the county. But through federal's effort, not only got Highway 4 committed to have the investment, it also got the E-BART extension, which was huge. And it became one of the principal selling points, along with the Caldecott Tunnel, to help get Measure J passed. Federal is the type of person that when he disagrees with you, you feel rotten because he's so nice about it. He doesn't yell, he doesn't get upset, he's just consistent. And while some people want to argue and hash it out, he just said, we're not moving forward until we deal with these real issues. And it made lives better. It will make lives better forever. And the decisions most of us make is based on that. It's not about us as individuals. And federal took that high road of trying to look at the county as a whole, trying to find equity and fairness, and not only in crafting Measure J, then you get to be here and be part of the oversight of that, and has been chair twice, and was actually instrumental in changing something many of you don't know. When Measure C and Measure J was passed, county supervisors were not allowed to be part of the rotation to be chair. And the reason why it goes back to the late 1980s of this tension between cities and counties. And it was really federal who kind of helped change that. And so it was just a few years back where we made that change, and it was unanimous to do that. And it has proven to be a wise decision that we are a county, but we are made up of 19 cities, but we all live in the same county. And the 1.2 million people that live here need all of our voices. So on behalf of your board, we'd like to make a presentation to you just to acknowledge the extraordinary. This isn't just, by the way, we are going to say goodbye to our outgoing commissioners a little bit tomorrow night at the holiday event, but also at our February meeting where we traditionally do that. The federal, we wanted to take a special moment because of your extraordinary leadership and the extraordinary efforts that you put in this, and all those years of serving on MTC and providing that similar kind of input that was here. We have just wow, this is heavy. It's really just to acknowledge, and it's so small a print, I still can't read it. It's from the Transportation Authority to federal government, an appreciation of your 25 years of dedicated service and a globe to sort of symbolize how you brought us all together in one place. So congratulations. Let's stand up. I just want to say thank you. Well honored. And please.
Well, thank you. It's been a month of recognition. I really do appreciate it. But I have to say the transportation has been something that's been really important to me and to the communities in which I started, for sure. We've seen a lot of great things happen, and I'm just glad to have been a part of that. And, you know, I just want to illustrate that it's not about me, but it's about the collective we that come together that make these things happen, because one voice doesn't do it, but collectively we can make changes. And we've done it throughout this county and through this agency. So just very, very thankful for being a part of it and being a part of it as long as I have. So thank you all, and I appreciate what you all do each and every day to continue the great work that we've been able to do here at CCTA. Thank you.
We also have a traditional thing in, as an outgoing commissioner that we will have for, be the first one he's ever gotten. He's never gotten anything from this agency, except the fun of being here. Any other comments from anybody here? Ken?
Well, I'll just challenge federal one last time, in the sense of, yes, it is done by the we, but it's having someone like you, a leader who's got strength of character, to sometimes bring the we together, right? To share that initiative, share that thought, share that concept, whatever it might be, that brings us to the collective whole to get the work done. So, yes, you're so right, but again, you're a huge part of that, kind of the glue that brings it all together. So, thank you. It's been a pleasure serving with you on the variety of opportunities that I've had to serve and learn from you. So, thanks again.
You can. Sue?
Well, I just wanted to echo the comments. This morning, I heard a lot about federal, I hear a lot about them tonight. Heard a lot about you this month as well. But you know, the interesting theme on the we and the glue that keeps it together was similar this morning at MTC. And I just wanted to note that he does it for the county, but he also does it he also has done it for the region. And I think that's super important. And I just wanted to make sure we acknowledge that as well. So thank you, Federal.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, Federal, I just want to thank you for being a steady force, a friendly person. You know, like Newell says, you don't get angry, but you just bring people together and you have the long vision. And that's what's really, really important. And I know that you're leaving now, but I hope that we can continue with your vision here for transportation. Really appreciate your work.
Great, thank you. Aaron?
Thank you for what you've done here at CCTA, but also in the county, in East Contra Costa County. I'm fortunate to get to serve with you the last couple of years, known you for a long time, but thank you.
Excellent. Xavier?
Federal, you'll be missed by everybody. I'll miss seeing you at various things all around the county. So good luck in your retirement. Have fun.
Yeah.
Do some traveling.
Good point.
Yeah, my wife, she's made in charge of it. We'll be gone all the time.
Excellent. Dig deep. Tim?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Federal. I think on behalf of staff, really appreciate the support that you've been given to the authority, to staff over the many, many decades. A lot of the things that we're doing here at CCTA is because of your leadership, just the innovation. I know you're a big fan of innovation, and I know you're a big fan of Gomentum Station and a lot of the pilot projects. And I know Gomentum Station wouldn't have happen without you. And so also wanted to echo just the region. I think you have been also serving on MTC just as long as you've been on the CCTA board. And so is that about right? No, I've been there 18 years. 18 years, okay, so still a long time. So, and to Commissioner Nowak's point, I think, you know, representing CCTA, the county, but there's been a lot of things that have happened even at the Nine-Bay area regional level with MTC, and you and been there from the steadfast and really supporting all of the interest of the travelers, you know, all the various things that have been happening around, you know, the bridges and the various tolls and the various measures, RM1, RM2, RM3. And so I know you're really, really focused on, you know, how Contra Costa County is going to benefit from those measures every single step of the way. And I will remember when I first came to CCTA, and we were trying to pass the measure in 2020, there was a particular item that you felt really strongly about, and it was reverse commutes, and really making sure that that message was in the measure and making sure that East County was being extremely heard around reverse commutes and bringing jobs to Eastern Contra Costa County. And you've been doing that through the support of the Northern Waterfront, through Gomentum Station, and that has been something you've been really focused on, and through CCTA and obviously the county and others. So, But again, behalf on CCTA staff, thank you for the support. We can't do what we do without leaders like you and leaders, all of you, to support staff. So it's been a really pleasure working with you, and thank you for the mentorship.
Thank you. Let me just mention a couple of individuals that's really been on this journey with me, and that's Amy Worth and Julie Pierce, and we made up a good team to carry so many things forward.
Excellent. Well, so we'll have a little more time tomorrow night and to say thank you and goodbye, as well as in February. So with that, well, now, is there any fellow board members, any comments? Anything to read out, report out? Seeing none, then we'll go to our executive director report. Tim?
Yeah, thank you. So we have one more video we'd like to share with you. So every single year we do a end of the year kind of accomplishments, right? And we typically in the past have done various versions of this. Like we'd have like an annual report, and then we got more cost effective and started doing like an annual like 2-pager. This year we decided to do a video. So curious what you think about it and your comments, but this really highlights all of your leadership as a board this year in terms of all the accomplishments that we've gotten done together this year. And we felt that this format, this media, is going to really help us, I think, next year in 2025 to be able to describe to the public and to our stakeholders about the great work that we continue to do here at CCTA and the accomplishments that we've made in 2024 and moving on into 2025. So with that, go ahead and start the video. As we look back on 2024, I'm excited about the progress that we've made in really shaping the future of transportation in Contra Costa County. One of the most exciting projects that we've worked on this year is the delivery and the continued delivery of our Presto shuttles. This year, we delivered Presto to the community of Rossmore and also to the city of Martinez. We're leveraging cutting-edge transportation technologies. We're looking at the best technologies for our roadway systems, connecting our transportation system in a much smarter way, and using next-generation autonomous shuttles to really improve people's mobility here in our communities, and really designed to really connect everyone in Contra Costa County through these first and last mile solutions. As you know, Gomentum Station is a key cornerstone to our overall Redefine Mobility Innovation Program. Really making sure we're creating opportunities not only for the technology, but for the future workforce within Contra Costa County and beyond. But also by hosting 4th grade and middle school and high school students at Gomentum Station to teach them about these new technologies to really set the future for their careers. We're continuing to learn from our Smart Signal Lab at Gomentum Station and how we can implement new technologies within our local roads, where we're really upgrading about 300 intersections with state-of-the-art technology to be able to manage and connect all of our traffic signals together, move people through our local roads and make our local roads more efficient and more productive. This year at the 9th annual Redefine Mobility Summit, we had a great turnout. This is just not a conference. This is really talking about the future of mobility here in Contra Costa County as well as globally. We're really proud to receive $166 million from United States Department of Transportation to really improve your commute on I-680. And through these dollars, we're fully funding a solution to really reduce congestion in 680 by delivering and completing the express lanes in the corridor, but also bringing new innovative technologies to be able to manage congestion in that corridor. And as we think about accessible transportation, and we are laser focused on this through the creation of the Office of Accessibility and Equity, also launching brand new programs like the LIFE program, the Low Income Fare Equity program, all really focused on making sure people have access to transportation to get to their medical appointments. At the heart of CCTA, we plan and fund and deliver projects. The project that we've made a significant amount of progress on this year is the Iron Horse Trail pedestrian overcrossing. Really provides better connectivity and safer crossing, walking and biking over Bollinger Canyon. One of the exciting projects that we've completed this year is the McCollamy pedestrian overcrossing, a critical piece of infrastructure needed to connect a gap in the McCollamy Trail in eastern Contra Costa County. With this pedestrian overcrossing, we're unlocking economic opportunities through planned development adjacent to the pedestrian overcrossing, but also preparing this area for a future transit stop. We're very honored to receive Bike East Bay's Project of the Year. And one of the things that CCTA is really proud of is creating our data repository. We're able to collect data from all modes of transportation and leverage that data for more performance-based planning. That data will be leveraged through the development of our countywide transportation plan. The CTP is a key document to set the blueprint for the next 35 years in transportation projects and programs. Through the CTP, we'll better understand the investments needed into mobility for Contra Costa County, really focused around 4 principles: safe and active living, really better connecting our neighborhoods, growing sustainably, and providing access for all. 2025 is going to be another big year. There's going to be some big developments, both with the Office of Accessibility and Equity, the continued deployment of our Presto program, expansion of Gomentum Station, and we're really excited about the future in 2025. And I have to give the accolades to Mike, because Mike has been really pushing this, and he's just a big fan of artificial intelligence. He used an AI video maker platform to make that video. And a video like that would typically cost us like $25,000. And so he was able to do it in-house for basically just his time. And it's fantastic. So some other things that just want to share with you really quick, just a few updates, but it's in the executive director report, but we did have FTA here, the program manager of FTA. And also, we also had the Office of Secretary's Transportation Office here as well. And they were here to demonstrate our ADS project. So they went to Rossmore, Martinez, Bishop Ranch, but also they got to demonstrate the Nissan project too. I haven't even got demoed the Nissan project. And basically it's the connected congestion management on Site 680 with autonomous vehicles to be able to do speed harmonization with autonomous vehicles. So it's really, really cool, as well as roadway safety through cameras at intersections. And then we got a lot of accolades from FTA when they came out. They said that you guys are tackling issues that US DOT and State Department of Transportations are still grappling with. So we're really it really demonstrate that we're leading the way. And then a quick update on the mega grant. So Stephanie's been working her night and day trying to get this thing done. And so it's getting into the Office of Secretary actually hopefully by the end of this week. And then we've got everything lined up to start pushing to get it executed sometime either over the holidays or in January on the execution of the funding agreement. So I think that's all. The PLA is also in progress. We have a meeting next week, or actually this week, to talk about that. We'll be bringing that back to the board probably in February. So for the project. So, and I think that's it. Any questions? I'll take any questions or comments.
Questions to Tim?
I got one, if you can predict the future, but if the House doesn't pass the continuing resolution and there is a shutdown, how would that impact the grant? And could it?
Prior appropriation.
That's a really good question. So Jason and I talked about this, and we're pretty confident the CR is going to get passed. But I think, but if it doesn't get passed, it'll.
It was too until this morning.
Yeah. And so, but basically, yeah, that'll just bring everything to a direct halt, and unfortunately what would happen is it would delay everything. It would really, really mess up the timeline because I don't think we'd be able to get the funding agreement executed before January 20th. So it would be a really unfortunate situation.
Tim, thank you for that. Lindy, Mike, everybody for the highlight. It's actually kind of cool to kind of sit back and relax at what we've been doing here. So well done. Any further comments or questions? If not, we will see you hopefully tomorrow night in Danville at Bridges at 6 p.m.